This video demonstrates the installation of the Data Aggregator in a non-fault tolerant configuration. If your environment requires fault tolerance, the deployment sequence changes. You must first install the Data Aggregator proxy, followed by 2 separate Data Aggregator nodes. Before beginning, verify that the server has all required RPM packages installed according to the official documentation. For this demonstration, the installation media has already been downloaded from Broadcom support and staged on the server. The first step is to extract the installation media, which provides the install da.bin binary. Once extracted, run install da.bin. In this demonstration, we will select option 1 for English. Next, review the installer navigation instructions before pressing enter to proceed. Next, review the host evaluation results. You must correct any critical errors and restart the installation. You may notice a warning regarding the required number of CPU cores. While we will proceed since this is a demonstration system, you should never ignore this in a production environment. Even if the installer allows you to continue, a warning indicates that a requirement is not optimal, which could lead to performance bottlenecks or system instability. We will hit enter to continue. By default, the installer assigns root as the installation owner. However, you have the option to specify a non-root user if your security policy requires it. For this procedure, we will accept the default root user. As described at the beginning of the video, we are going to install a non-fault tolerant environment for this demonstration, so we will select the default of No. For the Choose Install folder, this is the directory where the Data Aggregator will be installed. We will use the default install directory, so we'll press enter to accept the default directory. For the Configure Maximum Data Aggregator process memory, this is the memory for the Data Aggregator. There is no need to change the default unless there is a specific reason or have been instructed to do so by support. And for the Configure Maximum Active MQ process memory option, we can use the default memory option again. Next are the Data Repository Information options. We will enter the name of the first node of the Data Repository cluster. The next option is the Data Repository Server port. We can accept the default 5433 value. Next we have the Data Repository database name. This name is defined in a property in the drinstall.properties file used to install the data repository. We'll enter dr data. The database schema option is asking if we want to update the schema. Because this is a fresh install, there is no schema to update, but we can accept the default value of yes anyway. The Data Repository Username option is asking for a username. Because this is a fresh installation of the Data Aggregator, the username we enter here will create the user which is used by the Data Aggregator to connect to the data repository. We'll enter DA user. And for the Data Repository User Password option, we'll create a password for the user we just created. Next is the Data Repository Admin Username option, which asks for the existing Data Repository Admin username defined in the drinstall.properties file. We'll enter dradmin. Next we are prompted for the dradmin user password, which was also defined in the drinstall.properties file. We'll enter the password, dbpass. At this point, the installer used the information we just entered to connect to the data repository to check the information is valid, and we now know that the data repository is up and running and we successfully connected to it. The reason the installer connects to the data repository is that the installer will set up the schema for the DA user we created in the earlier step, and the schema is used to set up and capture performance data. This setup is not done during the data repository install, it's done during the Data Aggregator install. The data repository install sets up the framework for the database, and then the Data Aggregator installer populates the database with the necessary tables and infrastructure. For the HTTP port option, we'll select the default port. Next, a pre-installation summary runs. Review this information summary, then press enter to start the installation. The installation is now complete. Note the displayed installation directory for your records, then press enter to allow the installer to perform its final cleanup and exit. Lastly, check the Data Aggregator services are running. These services are DA daemon and ActiveMQ. All are running and the installation is successful.